What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here in the Supergirl Season 5, Episode 16, Alex in Wonderland. So I took a little bit of a break from filming because I have terrible sinus problems and my car is normally blue and now it's yellow because Georgia pollen sucks. So I had to take about a week off of filming because, well, yeah, I hate pollen. It sucks. I just felt terrible. I sounded even more snotty and nasally than I normally do, and if I still have a bit of that nasal sound to it, that's why. So I'm going to start uploading or publishing the videos again tomorrow. I have a few that I still can publish. But yeah, so getting back into the filming though, and starting off with Supergirl, this episode, there were parts of it that were interesting, but the problem is the overall premise of this episode was not interesting enough to really keep me gripped beyond those. Because obviously I've talked about before, like this whole premise of the virtual reality world basically being a way to escape from your problems and all of that. Very good, I guess, message for this season, because obviously there are a lot of people still, this was, what, like 2 years ago, I think? There are people today who still are just very, I'm just going to escape into my phone. You know, whether it's social media, whether it's binge watching shows, people love to escape from reality. I do it with video games all the time. So this idea that you can go into this other world where everything feels real, but it's not because you don't want to face the troubles that you're dealing with in the real world, is something that would be very dangerous to a lot of people. Because unfortunately, if you don't face your problems, nothing's going to get better. It's going to stay exactly the same. And so the fact that this virtual reality is trapping people in this world because they're dealing with these problems and they don't want to face them head on, and now they're basically stuck going nowhere because they're living in this fake world. It's a very real thing to talk about, and it's something that I feel like has been built up pretty well so far, but now just this episode with Alex in general, like, I don't know, I can't really get behind her plight because I don't know, maybe it's because I can't really relate to the problem because obviously my parents are still around, so I don't have a parent that, oh, well, he left me behind, so I don't care that he's dead. So I guess in my mind, that's kind of why I didn't really connect with Alex in this episode, because maybe that, but also it felt kind of unrealistic because it's not like it was his fault. He was dealing with a dangerous corporation, you know? Like, I just imagine if somebody's dad was a super secret spy and had to go live in another country to just basically save their own country by collecting information, I wouldn't really have a grudge against that father because he was doing what he felt was best for everyone, including his family, by keeping them alive. That's kind of what Jeremiah was doing as well. And I didn't actually look up and see why Jeremiah is no longer on the show. I'll probably do that during the next episode. But I don't know, it felt like an odd way to just sort of be like, okay, well, we need the good guys to figure out about what's been going on in the virtual world. So let's have Jeremiah's dead now. Let's have Alex go into the world to escape from this, even though in reality, it didn't seem like they left on that bad of a note last time, but it seems like maybe now she hates him again and she doesn't want to go to the funeral for whatever reason. It just felt very contrived and forced and unnecessary. So that's kind of why, even though I did like some of where this episode was going, the overall story for it didn't really get my attention because I had so many problems with why Alex tried to escape from reality in the first place. On top of that, I don't really know how this virtual reality works anymore because I thought it was just this other world exists. You can go in and you can create whatever you want to. You're in there with other people, yes, but there's also a lot of NPCs. But it feels like now this virtual reality world is literally just a recreation of the real world. There's a DEO and John Johns is in charge of it. Brainy and Nia are both there. Somehow Alex is Supergirl in this world and they know who her sister is. And somehow there's another Supergirl. Like, it just feels very odd and messy, and I don't know, the idea of the virtual reality world before didn't feel as messy as it does now. Now it just feels like, oh, well, we're just trying to keep people trapped in here by showing them the real world, as if this is where they actually exist, but there are also problems with it because there are things in it that don't make sense, like why does everybody have 3 lines on their necks? You know, it feels odd that so many people are just like, oh yes, this is the real world now. I've given myself fully to this, even though there's a lot of weird things even though it does look just like the real world. I don't know. I guess that's another problem that I had with it is a lot of what's going on in the virtual reality world doesn't get explained. Maybe it will in the next few episodes, but I feel like I no longer really understand what this virtual reality world is supposed to be anymore. And whether that's Lex's fault, whether that's something Leviathan is doing, I don't know. Or even something that Lena is trying to do. Because, I mean, it does sort of fit within her mindset of like, oh, well, if we just take everybody in this virtual reality world where they can do and be whatever they want, well, then who cares, right? Who cares if you have your outside problems because you go here and you can have whatever you want to have and just believe this is the real world now, even if it leaves you in a comatose state. So yeah, I hope they give us a little bit more on that in the next couple episodes. But as far as what everything Alex went through in the virtual reality world, yeah, it feels very odd that, oh well, because this is her world that she created, that's why, all these people that she knows are at the DEO. But if that's the case, I feel like that would happen for everybody, right? This other girl that's playing Supergirl in her own world, wouldn't her people show up as well? Or do they all see different people? Because it seems like they all see the exact same thing in this world. So I don't know. It feels like there were some things that were explained well, and there were some things that needed more explanation. And then on top of that, the other problem that I think I was having was, how come nobody's noticing the fact that people are just going into the world and never being heard from again? Like, I don't know. It seems, yeah, I get the fact that some of these people are grieving, and so it would make sense that, hey, I just need some time to myself right now. They go in the world and people don't hear from them, and they're like, oh well, they're probably just grieving. However, this has clearly been going on for a while, and I guess it's specifically people who are grieving that go into the world end up getting locked in this world somehow. I don't exactly know how that works. Again, maybe we'll get more, but I have to assume that that's what's causing it, because I feel like more people would just go in and become locked in the world, and I feel like then there would be a lot more people complaining and being like, hey, my friend went in and he's not come out. But I guess if it's only grieving people, that would make more sense why not a lot of people are talking about it, because not everybody that goes in here is looking to escape from their grief. This is just a theory that I'm spitballing off the top of my head. I don't know. It seems kind of complicated and convoluted, and I hope it gets streamlined a bit more in the coming episodes, because right now, I don't know, it seems all over the place and messy writing wise. So, but then the other thing in this episode was William. He finally goes back to more of his I'm trying to take down Lex persona that we saw throughout like the first few episodes after Crisis. I don't know. I guess interesting. Like, I just feel like they have no idea what to do with William now, post-Crisis, and throwing him at Kara didn't really seem to stick, and giving him a reason to go after Lex is not really all that interesting. He's a wasted character. He's probably one of the worst characters I think I've seen on Supergirl, and that's saying a lot, because there have been a lot of terrible characters on Supergirl. But yeah, going after Lex, I don't know. He's trying to track down what Lex's involvement is with these people that are, I guess, getting stuck in the virtual reality world. This one hacker, oh, did Lex have something to do with that? Well, no, but now he's on the board for Obsidian, so maybe he does have something to do with what's going on. And then at the end, he gets this information about this warehouse to go to, and he goes in there, and the old lady that's been working with Leviathan, I don't know if it's her superpower, like she's a psychic and can, I guess, telepathically manipulate his mind so he can't see anything, or if there's an invisible wall there. And if that's the case, then I mean, how unlucky that he just happens to stop right before the invisible wall, right? That scene to me was kind of silly, because I'm just like, why wouldn't you go explore the end of that room? Why would you just stop and be like, oh, guess there's nothing here, I'm a good reporter, and just leave? And then on top of that, he picks up some patient armband from, I guess, somebody that was brought in. So, I don't know. William just seems like such a waste of a character, and I don't really care. about him. So, yeah, I guess that's about it for this episode. So on to the next one. See you there. And now episode 17, Deus Lex Machina. But you see how much better the show is when Lex is here? I mean, really. Without Lex, the past few episodes, minus the Mixie episode, because that one was surprisingly enjoyable, have been really shit. So you bring Lex back in, and suddenly now I'm having fun. It's enjoyable. It's well written. It's shocking how high this show can get, considering how low its low points are. But yeah, we see Lex. We see his full plan. Some of it maybe doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'll admit there are moments when I was kind of lost when they were explaining certain pieces moving. First of all, the one thing that definitely stood out to me as really bad is suddenly Magan shows up out of nowhere. She's, oh, your brother heard your psychic something on Mars and he sent me to help. Huh? He was searching for missing people. How does that get to Mars? And his brother goes, oh, Magan, you gotta go help them. There's something wrong. You gotta go stop the Sun Eater. He was looking for lost people, and she showed up to help stop the Sun Eater. How? That doesn't go together. It doesn't fit. What? Han Solo never looked so good. Huh? What? What is that? Did I miss something? Did I miss a reference? Because I don't know how that was supposed to be Han Solo at all. It's just very odd. Maybe I missed a reference because I was so blown up. Like, honestly, when she showed up and she delivered that line about his brother sending her, I was so thrown off. And then when he said, oh, Han Solo never looked so good, I'm like, did I just miss Harrison Ford? Like, did she morph into Harrison Ford for a second and say, I got your back? Like, what just happened? On top of that, I'll admit there are certain lines that remind me just how bad the writing in the show is. I was reminded of one of them, and I don't remember if I talked about it or not, but the episode where Alex had gone into Obsidian or the VR world or whatever to stop whatever his name was. That one said, this is my world, and this is my gun. I don't know if I talked about that, but I'm like, damn, it's bad writing. This one, it got even worse. We have to go help Kara, like right now. You're right. That's what happens when you try to do reviews when it's late. You start spitting on yourself. But, oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was about to go help Supergirl maybe an hour from now. But then Alex said we need to go help her right now. And I was like, you know what? That's such a smarter plan. Thank you, Alex, for giving us this helpful piece of information. God, the writing in the show can be... Oh, I don't even want to say cringy because there's a certain level of being cringy that's kind of funny. This is... I don't even know what to describe this as. This is just bad. I think that's the simplest term to use here. This is just bad writing. So, as far as Lex's plan, though, I do enjoy elements of it. Finding out that apparently he had Eve go kill Jeremiah. Again, would have liked to see him if that's the case, because I feel like if they had brought him on just to see, he shows back up and he's like, hey, I feel like I can be a part of your life again, or something along those lines. Maybe his story was a bit different in this new world. Maybe he didn't have to hide from Cadmus as long, so he could actually be a good father, or something along those lines. And then all of a sudden he dies. And we're just like, wait, what? And then we find out in this episode, oh, it was Eve that killed him. But instead, he wasn't involved. We didn't see him at all. And then suddenly Eve goes and kills him. And we just find out in this episode, oh yeah, that's why he died, by the way. It's like, it felt like more of an aside than an actual plot point. And I feel like Eve killing Alex and Kara's father should be a bigger deal, especially, with Lex being the one that manipulated that. That should be a bigger deal than just, oh yeah, by the way, this happened. And I don't know, I looked it up. Dean Cain apparently has a lot of right-wing views, and we've seen how shows like Supergirl, we saw what happened with what's her name, Gina Carano, I think, from The Mandalorian. We've seen how the Hollywood mainstream media treats right-wing actors. So there's a very good chance that he may have said something that pissed people off and like, oh, you don't get him back at all, and that's why we haven't seen him again as Jeremiah. That's just speculation on my part, but it would have been nice to see him involved, though, and see what Jeremiah's death would have meant to Kara and Alex, instead of it being just this happened. So that was frustrating, but again, I like seeing what Lex is doing. I like seeing him move all the pieces and basically play this game of chess with all these people's lives. Honestly, his conversations with his mom also very interesting. Like, just this feeling of she, I think, sees the whole playing field from a different level than he does. Like, I think he's technically smarter than she is, but I think she's able to keep her emotions out of it better than he does. And even, honestly, at the end, whenever he reveals to Eve, oh, by the way, I was just using you because you betrayed me in another life, which I kind of figured that's where he was going with her. Like, even that moment, he felt like, oh, yes, this is me telling you about this because I want to tell you how smart I am. And by the way, yeah, no, you screwed me over. This is your comeuppance for doing that in another life. Him telling her that plan probably is going to screw him somewhere down the line. There's going to be a point where Eve is probably going to be like, you know what, screw this. I'm not doing this again. I was doing this for Leviathan so many years. I'm not doing this again for somebody else that made me feel like I loved him and then just turned me down. So I could totally see this working against him, because in his mind, it's more fun for him to tell Eve, hey, you betrayed me, so this is me getting you back, instead of just keeping it a secret and continuing to use her, and at least keeping her as an ally. Now he's turned her into an enemy. Not an enemy that's going to be willing to take him on by herself, but still, she's an enemy at this point. So I really do think that's kind of what makes Lex such an interesting villain, is he is very intelligent. We even saw, in killing Jeremiah, it was a brilliant play, and he even thinks it's a brilliant play, but he didn't see the unforeseen little adage of, well, it drove Lena to trusting Supergirl again, which his mom doesn't see as an issue, but for him, he still has this grudge against Kara, and he wants her out of the picture, even though using Kara would be a much greater advantage to him. He still has this feeling of, I hate Kryptonians, I don't want to work with her. So I find that very interesting, and I feel like that's ultimately going to be what, I guess, drives Lex into a bit of a failure at the end of this season. I don't think he's going to necessarily completely lose, but I don't think that he's going to come out the victor in all of this. I feel like the good guys are probably going to win, and it's going to come down to he couldn't bring himself to work with Kara because she's a Kryptonian and he hates Kryptonians, and that's his downfall. So, yeah, I really like what they're doing with that, though. Everything with Obsidian, seeing how Lex played them as well, very interesting. I feel like Andrea's kind of taking a backseat the second half of the season. I thought she was going to play a lot more of a role, especially in the last episode when we saw she and William were kind of like, or no, she and Kelly were talking about what's going on with the glitch and all of that. Honestly, I was kind of surprised to see that Leviathan does actually want the glitch out of there. I guess ultimately their plan is to distract everybody, because we saw when the world was about to end, everybody's just like, oh, world's ending, I don't care about that. Which ultimately very realistic, again, because people would do that in the last moment, just like, oh, you know what, world's about to end, I don't want to think about that. Whoop. Put on the glasses, I can't see what's going on around me. So yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting to see that Leviathan's ultimate plan basically comes down to, we want to distract people enough to where we can cause a cataclysmic event. I still don't really understand why. Like, I feel like the motivations as to why they want to cause these cataclysmic events that keeps the population number down, I don't really get it. I wish they would explain that a bit better. But I mean, I guess it makes for a threatening group. It doesn't really. I guess their motivations would make things a bit more interesting for me if I understood a lot more why they were doing this, and I really got a feel for what their motivations are. But what their plan is, it's very threatening to the world. I mean, a lot of people are going to die because of what they're trying to do. So, in that sense, they are a very intimidating group because they want to kill a lot of people. So I guess that's okay. But yeah, I mean, they're coming down to the wire. There's only 2 episodes left after this, so very much the end game now. And one final thing I just remembered is the CGI for Gemma. Yeah, that was unfortunate. I don't know why they thought giving her a CGI face would be better than just, I don't know, giving her glowy eyes or something along those lines. It was definitely not. It was a choice, and the choice was wrong. So there's that. But it's, yeah, no, that was that was pretty rough to look at. I mean, didn't look realistic at all. I don't even know what they were going for. She kind of looks like a robot, which wouldn't make any sense unless they're supposed to be like the DC version of Eternals. I don't know. But yeah, that was pretty bad. It just came to mind. I'm like, oh yeah, I need to talk about that. But yeah, all in all, a good episode. I'm excited to see how Lex is going to play into this. Honestly, this part of the story I am very invested in. There's been a lot of this show that has really pissed me off this season. But all in all, I'm still at least intrigued to see what the plan is, how Lex is going to take on Leviathan. It feels like he's just essentially trying to take down Leviathan and kill Supergirl in the process, because it's like taking down Leviathan would benefit himself and the people around him, people that want to, I guess, save the day. But killing Supergirl is kind of his own little agenda that he wants to get done as well. But I think ultimately that's the part that's going to trip him up in the end. But we'll see what happens next. But that's it for this episode and these 2 episodes. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 2? Let me know. We could talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Supergirl reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.